Add to stream. Oh, wait. I don't think I was even on the stream. And who's this second person? Who's this second person? Oh, this is the edit mode. Cancel. Discard changes. Yo. Hello, everyone. Let me know if you can hear me. I don't know if I've been speaking up because it's a different interface. I'm trying the StreamYard one now. So if you can hear me better, then maybe it's actually the rest stream. I hope not. So we jump from this one to that one for those purposes. Yes, I can hear. Okay. This might be a science now. Might have to jump back to this one. And we left them for oh wow. It might big up, sister. It might actually then be, if you guys can hear me clearly, we actually moved from StreamYard to Restream for, I can't remember the technical reason, but now we might have to move back. This is unacceptable for us to be live, trying to help black people, and then things don't work. Oh, then again, it might be planned. You never know. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I prefer it as well. To be honest, like there's one or two things that Restream had that's, I guess, decent. I did prefer this, but I'm trying to think of one thing is why I could upload as many videos as possible and then play them at once, which you couldn't really do at all. So that was never good. We wait for the brother and sister to come in. We're gonna jump onto, and I've now made it the actual title. How long will it take before the Caribbean? Oh, you know, it's funny, right? Yeah, for the Caribbean community. UK, how long will it take before the Caribbean UK community is fully white? It's a bit weird there. Hold on, let's make sure I haven't. This is coming. Yeah, there's going to be two B's. I swear this is bad. The thing, it's gone back to our old design because there's two R's and two B's. Whatever, I can't be asked. Anyway, I'll update while we wait for him. But I thought it looked weird. So what's going on there? So first it was the Cooper, now it's that. All right, cool. Anyway, let me change it. We still got time. So yeah, let me go on to let me see if the video works, because I think we left last time because the video was playing up on this particular thing. So how do you do it again? You go to present and then video. Here we go, as before. And then let's click this. We're gonna skip this just see if this works. Hold on.
In the early hours of Wednesday, 30 August 2023, shrouded in controversy among the Gabonese. Rumors, which he has always denied, have persisted for years that he was adopted from the Nigerian southeast at the time of the Nigerian Civil War. The young Alain Bernard was still in primary school when his father, Omar Bongo, took control of this tiny Central African nation in 1967. This former French colony gained independence in 1960 and is currently a member of OPEC, the oil cartel, with a production of about 180,000 barrels of crude oil per day, making it the 8th largest producer of oil in sub-Saharan Africa. The nation of Gabon is home to more than 2.5 million people. Bongo Sr. had the reputation of being a kleptocrat, one of the wealthiest men in the world, with a fortune derived from Gabon's oil. He was also a pillar of Francafrique, a strategy by which the nation of France bound itself to its former African colonies through cronyism, often tainted with corruption and human rights abuses. In 1973, the Bongo family converted to Islam, after which Alain's name was changed to Ali. This decision was widely seen by critics as a way to attract investment from Muslim countries.
So brothers, this is if ever you see any typos or things jump or videos don't stream or things don't work, let me know so we can fix it straight away.
But the elder Bongo, who was previously an animist and not baptized in the Christian faith, also evoked spiritual reasons for his conversion to Islam. The fact that Ali Bongo went to the best schools in Libreville, Gabon's capital, and didn't learn local languages was something he would get criticized for later on. When Ali was 9 years old, he was sent to a private school in France where he completed his primary education. His international upbringing led many in Gabon to view him as an outsider. The young Ali Bongo had a passion for the arts, and in 1977, he recorded a funk album titled A Brand New Man, produced by Charles Bobbitt, manager for the legendary James Brown, and with background vocals and music by James Brown's band. Around the same time, Ali Bongo was studying law and graduated from
Very good put together. This was done by a channel called African Biographics. Check it out.
The Pantheon Sorbonne in Paris in 1978, where he frequented the club.
Many other similar kind of documentaries about a lot of the African leaders and things around Africa.
He would go on to receive his doctorate from Wuhan University in China in 1980. Encouraged by his father, Ali Bongo quickly abandoned his music career in order to pursue his political ambitions. In this regard, he became involved in politics in 1981 when he joined his father's Gabonese Democratic Party, the PDG. His father appointed him foreign minister in 1989, but this appointment ended after 3 years because of a constitutional change requiring ministers to be over the age of 35. Ali Bongo was 32 at the time. Ali Bongo eventually went on to lead the Defense Ministry, a position he held until the death of his father in 2009. But throughout this entire period, it's
those joining, we're watching the President Ali Bongo. The Gabon has been one of the new countries that's gone through the coup, and this was the current president on house arrest. We studied him in the past because he's one of the few or many presidents who's married a woman from the former colonized nations. So we covered them in the past, but right now he's been on house arrest, and we're looking at his past and the documentary done by African Biographics. Check that
seems
out.
he wasn't immediately seen as a natural successor to his father. The Gabonese people didn't see him as a serious candidate. In 2009, rumors emerged that President Omar Bongo was not in good health, particularly in the month of May when he suspended his presidential duties and checked into a clinic in Spain, ostensibly to rest and mourn the death of his wife, who had passed away earlier in March. Initial reports of Omar Bongo's death on June 7, 2009 were denied by the Gabon government, but an official announcement the next day indicated that Omar Bongo died on June 8, 2009. Afterwards, Senate President...
All right, so we'll stop it there. Well, we might come back to it. We might go back to the first thing. I'm not too sure how much you heard of the other stuff, so if everything was jumping, then maybe we have time. Maybe we can talk about the other stuff. But I've pinned the link at the top. Now we're going to go to our final topic, which is going to be very quick. Let me see if this should just watch right away. Right, you add that to stream and it goes. Yeah, see, that's a better mechanism. This one, it's just quicker, much better, much better. But yeah, anyway, and let me change the name. I think there's a typo there. Hold on. Like, give me 17 seconds. I think that should work. There you go. And where is it? Yes, it's been correct. Thank goodness. Excellent. Cool. All right. Yeah, so the final topic, or the third topic, is how long will it take before the Caribbean UK community is fully white? I just saw a video. I thought, this is interesting. Let me just play this video, and then we'll talk about it, because there's other channels that cover this topic of the Caribbean community gradually becoming European. So let's see if I can find that video. Please tell me I download the video. I'll be very displeased if I didn't even download it. Really? Hold on. Did I not download it? Did I? wait, let me just check my things if I didn't download it. Oh, give me 5 seconds. Oh, here it is. Yeah, it's here. Oops, no, don't do it like that. Nah, do it by date. There we go. Tell me this is it. Oh yeah, found it. All right, cool. So if I move that there like that, all right, excellent. What a long, man. Found it. All right.
I'm part Jamaican.
Who's Jamaican?
My dad.
And what country do people think you're from?
British, basic British person.
Why?
And pale, just look like an average white person.
What country do you think they are from?
From Balland.
Why?
Because Nike and hairstyle.
Because of the Nike.
Yeah, because of the Nike.
Yeah, I understand. And what country are you from?
From Syria.
And what country do people think you're from?
Pakistan.
Why?
Because I'm brown. I live with a Pakistani.
Right,
what country?
So basically, we'll start again. European guy or Jamaican guy, I guess. And yeah, this asking where he's from. Let's check it out.
What country are you from?
I'm part Jamaican.
Who's Jamaican?
My dad.
And what country do people think you're from?
British, basic British person.
Why?
And pale, just look like an average white person.
What country do you think they are
All right.
from?
From Balland.
Why?
Because Nike.
So yeah, I just saw this. And obviously when I saw this, I instantly thought of a lot of the work we were doing about Black love and Black economics and also hold on, where is this the one or is this hold on? Is that yeah, there we go. So let me go back to the thing. Let's do a keep in mind, family, the link is there, but we shall teach as we normally do. We always let Black women know that on this show we desperately are trying to promote Black love, and we understand that sometimes you might find it very challenging to find a decent Black man for many reasons, and so we're here to address those concerns. But naturally, one of the outcomes of that is whenever Black people, Black men, particularly here, marry non-Black women or European women, eventually the population of that particular group will become what they're married into, and you might find it difficult to have any kind of ownership or economics because obviously a new community is now integrated or taken over in what you're doing. So we mentioned it, and they were saying that one day, you're going to have Jamaicans in England, and you won't recognize them as the traditional look of Jamaicans and whatever, because a lot of what they call racial whitening is happening. So we spoke about it. So we do speak about it on this show. It's something that we have made a primary. I'm just trying to figure out if I got any content on this at all. Usually at the back. What were we talking about? I don't know. This is a very good point. If you have, we covered a similar topic about what's going on in Aborigine in America, Australia, sorry, where obviously there's a so-called white Aboriginal person and the Black Aboriginal person, and how the white Aboriginal person seems to be getting most of the benefits and the help, while the Black Aboriginal person is still in a bad way in the alcoholic community and not giving any kind of like reparations or anything like that. Never nice to know. But very similar things happening. I'm trying to figure if yes, and we also spoke about racial whitening, so we've definitely tackled it there, so which is good. And we did a whole lot of stuff like this where we observed that every single Black politician in the UK, every single Black one who's male, is married to a European woman without fail, or male in the UK. We said, is that a pattern, or maybe white women are just so much more glamorous? Who knows? But that was a pattern that we tried to be somewhat intelligent to see patterns. I've started this one about Black-owned businesses problem figures. So I was looking at the most successful Black men to see who they end up with. I haven't finished that yet, so give me time to finish that. But I was looking at Barry Gordy, and I know he was married to two sisters, Thelma Coleman, and Ray Singleton. But I think he married a European towards the end, at least for 3 years. So but there you go. But I'm doing some other one. I'm looking at other people. But give me time to gather the detail. Then we looked at footballers, as you know, footballers and marry a whole lot of Europeans and stuff. There you go. Boom, boom, boom. And then we looked at directors. Every single director I could find in the UK is married to a white woman, apart from Idris Elba, who's married to a Black woman, but he is a director, but he's more of an actor director. Well, the other directors, that seems to be the thing. And we spoke about racial whitening and how it worked. It's denigrate and destroy Black people's family, phenotype, and biology. Denigrate and destroy Black people's economics and self-reliance. Denigrate and destroy Black people's culture and identity. So we were saying that there's history of that. So that's we just quickly skimmed by the whole question of, it's quite far, this, isn't it? How long will it take before the Caribbean UK community is fully white? There was a prediction of maybe 1 or 2 more generations. Hopefully, that won't be the case. But the way things are going, who knows? But I've posted the link, family, in the group. Now, we've covered 3 topics today, very quick. And unfortunately, for those who jumped on the mic, got lost along the way, we had issues with StreamYard or Restream. And we had to jump on 2 different actual streams. And we're now here. So I'm sure we've lost some brothers and sisters along the waves of the internet. But the link is still there. So if there's anything you'd like to for me to play again or anything you want to go over, but we did cover Africa is Rising. We looked at Gabon president and the coup. We looked at what can be done to tackle anti-black murder in the USA. We didn't really look at that. What we did there is we were looking at how quickly the American government tackles Asian hate crimes and others as well. But with African Americans, not too fast, if at all. And certain words are used like minority and stuff where, unfortunately, most of the initiatives might not actually benefit African Americans anyway. So we looked at that and we was trying to do it as a case study, and we see consistency there, which is never good. And then last but by no means least, we looked at how long will it take before the Caribbean UK community is fully white. So maybe 20 more years, 30 more years, 40, who knows. But yeah, it's more of a warning or an awareness that, black families is a very important part of black ownership and black economics. If you don't do that, you're going to have big trouble. Very few people talk about this topic. It's taboo, but it is a very important one. And it's something we should definitely have a huge conversation over. And I think I've been invited to some shows in the future to do that, and I'm glad to go on. But it's definitely important. Speaking of that, we are looking at the picture. If you look at the president of Gabon, he's been arrested, and his European wife. I don't think has been arrested. I think he thinks she has because he's obviously in his room locked up. And maybe his younger or oldest son is also on house arrest as well. I think he looks much slimmer now. I think he was unwell. I think that was another concern that he was unwell and still running, something like this. But so Gabon is one of the new countries to join the coup. You see a lot of the people best pleased when the military seems to take over. So maybe that's saying something. Let's look at let's also check this out as well. This is a European guy's perspective. Hold on.
To you by NordVPN. Right. On Saturday, Gabon went to the polls to elect their parliament and president. In the early hours of Wednesday morning, after
I think he's trying to explain why it's a bad thing. Big up Mene Gonis. So let's see his opinion.
Many days of counting, the Gabonese election centre announced that incumbent Ali Bongo.
Let's go back. There's Ali Bongo and his wife. Hold on. You can see her. She's got something in her hand. Yep, don't know where it is.
Bongo had won a third term with 64% of the vote. The opposition denounced the election as fraudulent, and a few hours later, members of the Gabonese military announced on television channel Gabon 24 that they'd taken control of the country and called for the dissolution of all existing Gabonese political institutions. This is the most recent in a series of military coups sweeping across former French colonies.
Look at that. So we look, all the French colonies, apart from Sudan. Sudan is not a French colony. I could be wrong. I don't think it was. I think it was an English. Was Sudan an English colony or a French colony or both? But yeah, definitely the French colonies are just literally cooping.
In Africa, and it doesn't bode at all well for West Africa's political stability. So in this video, we're going to have a look at Gabon's post-colonial history, what happened yesterday, and to what extent this could accelerate the destabilization of the wider region.
And then here today, we're looking at Arab and British colony. Thank you there, Virtual Oath Studios. We're looking at history. We're looking at history now. Feel free to jump in if you like, family. We're learning about Gabon at the moment.
Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing.
We won't be doing that.
This is an African country that used to be a French colony. It gained its independence in 1960 and was originally considered one of the most politically stable countries in the region. It was relatively wealthy, thanks to its 2.5 billion barrels worth of oil reserves, and it was one of the few African countries that exported more stuff than it imported. Gabon is, in many ways, a petrostate. Even today, oil revenues account for 80% of all exports, 45% of GDP, and 60% of government revenue. Anyway, when Gabon became independent, there were basically two political parties. The Gabonese Democratic Bloc, led by Léon Mba, and the Gabonese Democratic and Social Union, led by Jean-Hilaire Ombé. Léon Mba won the first election in 1961 and became president, but appointed Jean-Hilaire Ombé as foreign minister. Gabon's democratic success was short-lived, however, and in 1964, the Gabonese military staged a coup, replacing Mba with Ombé. Unfortunately for Ombay, the coup was toppled 3 days later after the French military intervened on behalf of Mba, who subsequently sentenced Ombay to 20 years of hard labour and exile, even though Ombay apparently wasn't involved in the coup planning and didn't know it was going to happen. Scarred by the experience of the coup, Mba began to consolidate his power, but died in 1967. He was succeeded by his vice president, Albert Bernard Bongo, who would go on to become Omar Bongo in 1973 after converting to Islam on the advice of Libya's Colonel Gaddafi. In 1968, Bongo announced that Gabon had become a one-party state, dissolved the incumbent Gabonese Democratic Bloc and set up his own party, ironically called the Gabonese Democratic Party. Omar Bongo went on to rule Gabon continuously for almost 42 years until his death in 2009. Bongo was pressured by the public into allowing other political parties to run for office in 1990, but elections were reliably marred by widespread allegations of vote rigging, and Bongo was a savvy political operator. He successfully co-opted or bought off opposition politicians while using the country's oil reserves to keep them on side. Bongo also enjoyed support from France, in part because he gave the French oil company, Elf Aquitaine, privileged rights to exploit Gabon's oil reserves. With support from both the Gabonese elite and France, Bongo was able to maintain political stability in Gabon for the entirety of his reign. To be clear, we're not saying Bongo was a good leader, despite Gabon's enormous mineral wealth and the fact that it had one of the highest GDP per capita in the region. 40% of the population still lives in poverty, and youth unemployment is at about 35%. Nonetheless,
Freeze for a minute, family. Yes, just so you know, I've just received a message from someone who said that their YouTube is jumping on off. So I think it might be a YouTube thing, family. So I'm hoping that you're hearing this very clearly, and maybe I'm lucky with the algorithm at the moment. I don't know, but it might not have been a Restream. It might have been YouTube. But if you're hearing any problems, let me know. I'm gonna carry on playing this for a bit, and then the links out if you want to jump in.
It's worth noting that Gabon enjoyed an impressive degree of political stability, especially when compared to its neighbours, which makes yesterday's coup all the more worrying. Anyway, Bongo's death in 2009 triggered a presidential election, which was apparently won by his son and former defence minister Ali Bongo, who was then re-elected in 2016. Both times, the election was marred by allegations of vote rigging, sparking short-lived protests across the country. Bongo definitely cheated in the 2016 election, which he apparently won by less than 1.5%, after apparently winning 95.5% of the vote in his home province of Haut-Ogooué on a somewhat implausible 99.9% turnout. So you get the idea. Clearly, Bongo Jr. isn't actually popular in Gabon. This is probably largely because falling oil prices and underinvestment in Gabon's oil industry have reduced oil revenues and caused the economy to stagnate since he came to power. Elements of the military actually attempted a coup in 2019 after Bongo suffered a stroke, but it was quickly snuffed out by the security services. Anyway, this takes us up to Saturday, when Gabon went to the polls to decide on whether or not to give Bongo a third term. Bongo's main opponent this time was the Alternance 2023 coalition and their presidential candidate Albert Ondo Ossa, a former education minister under Bongo Sr. Even before the polls opened, the opposition were complaining that the new electoral system, which was rushed through by Bongo earlier this year, would unfairly benefit the ruling party, both because it's too confusing and because it now means presidential candidates only need a plurality of votes in the first round to win. Fears of unrest weren't helped by the fact that Bongo then refused to admit international observers, suspended certain foreign broadcasters, cut internet access, and imposed a nationwide curfew after the poll. Finally, on Wednesday morning, after over 3 days of counting, the Gabonese Election Centre announced that Bongo had won with 64% of the vote, with Ondo Ossa coming second with 31%. This didn't go down too well with the military, and in the early hours of Wednesday morning, a group of senior military officers, calling themselves the Committee of Transition and the Restoration of Institutions, announced on Gabonese TV that they'd seized power and that the election results would be cancelled, with all borders to be closed until further notice and state institutions dissolved. At the time of writing, it's hard to know exactly what's going on.
So this currently is happening in the Gabon.
But footage doing the rounds on social media seems to show people in the capital of Libreville coming out in support of the military. It's unclear what happened to Bongo, who hasn't been seen since Saturday. If the takeover succeeds, which currently looks likely, Gabon will join a growing list of Central and West African countries to experience military coups in recent years, including Guinea, Mali, Burkina Faso, Chad, Sudan, and most recently Niger. Obviously, this is bad news for regional stability, not least because coups usually precede more coups. But what makes Gabon so remarkable is that, unlike most of the other countries on the list, Gabon is a relatively wealthy country that's enjoyed political stability for most of its post-colonial history. Clearly, Gabon's coup is cause for concern, and West and Central Africa look set for even more political instability. Following stories and doing independent journalism.
Cool. All right, thank you, friend. Excellent. Cool. Yeah. So, as Amanda Goddess says, the more I can't see that now. The more I learn about Africa politics, I just feel so discouraged. It's like we're screwed in the Caribbean, screwed in the US, screwed on the continent. Well, that's why all the shortcomings that might happen. This is why I try to get with like-minded people and build step by step and go small and get bigger. But I mean, these coups, I think this is like a lot of the nations are not best pleased with how the nation's been governed. When people talk about corruption and consistent corruption, I think at a certain point, this could be what it is. Unless, of course, it's all been orchestrated by someone else. But apparently, that's what it could be. Yeah, it's right. It's what happened in French colonies at the moment, or former French colonies. But yes, So Africa's rising. Has Gabon president been arrested in the coup? Yes, he has. Him and his son. Not too sure. His wife might be. Not too sure if she has. Maybe she's to go on a trip back to France, where she's from. It's funny because we've only seen a video of him asking people in English for help. So we assume if he wanted France to help him, he would do videos in French. But maybe he has. We just haven't seen it. Maybe his wife will try to get some kind of connection to her husband, but I'm not sure how good that will do, considering it might have a chain reaction if all the other nations just done the same thing. It's quite a lot to have to deal with. And then we looked at what can be done to tackle the anti-black murder in the USA, where, unfortunately in Jacksonville, there's 3 murders by white supremacists who went into a store with a automatic rifle and a pistol, which he bought himself illegally, and then went and murdered black people. I think he had a history. I think after he bought the gun, the cops went to his house because of domestic attack with him and his brother or something. He lived with his parents, and I think something else happened. Maybe they had to check he wasn't mentally unwell or something. I can't remember. But he killed himself as he murdered 3 black people. And we were just looking at the fact that how you don't get an anti-black bill or anything like that when black people are murdered, but other people, you seem to be get these things. So that's why we say to the sisters and brothers in America that try to use these reasons to separate and focus on self and use it as examples and videos to say of why if you don't do for self, so nothing will get done. It's very important. We also look at it as a case study to make sure that we here or other people around the world are aware of methods of how black people are mistreated politically, and we see correlations in certain behaviors. And then the final topic, which we rushed, of course, but if any sisters and brothers want to talk about this topic, feel free. It's usually one that causes a lot of interest. Who people pick as marriage and stuff. But how long will it take before the Caribbean UK community is fully white? And we're talking about the concept of racial whitening and how when black people marry white people and then they marry another white person, eventually the population of that community becomes white. And we were looking at that in the Caribbean because we looked at a video where there was a white person who says he was Jamaican or something like this. and that will be more consistent in the UK. Where you have European people speak, being Jamaican here. And I think one of the concerns about that is when you ever try to deliver ownership and economics, that's where you kind of have a hole in the ship because you allow your economics and ownership to filter out to whatever communities the men try to marry. We also looked at I think a week or two ago, there was a news article on The Voice, where it was asking where has the community, the Caribbean community gone, and they mentioned it's either Bristol or I can't remember it was. Shame on me twice, but when I was talking, that people said, well, what's happened is a lot of the black men are not building and they're not marrying sisters and that, and you're getting so a lot. So you don't have a cultural identity. They're integrated, so you're not getting a Caribbean scene or a Caribbean industry and stuff. So yeah, all that stuff in it. So it's stuff to be aware of. So are you saying that Caribbean? I'm just going to read what some of the let's break out. Are you saying that Caribbean people in the UK tend to date out more than other black groups in the UK? Yes, without question. It's very definitely high amongst the African and Caribbean community. However, the Caribbean community is much. I haven't got the data in front of me, but it was significantly more. Significantly more, and all you have to really do is just to give people a brief idea of what's actually happening. We can always use the football as a case study. So, for example, we've got pictures now. Let me move that way. Sorry. For those who don't know, the Caribbean community are probably the highest daters, men. That is, the men are the highest daters of interracial relationships, and the Caribbean community are probably one of the least active in building industry. It's also other things that has the highest of racism and that kind of stuff as well, which is obviously the contributing factor, a contributing factor. But we have to acknowledge this and try to find solutions for these challenges. But what I was saying was, if you look at the screen at the moment, the research we were doing was we were looking at England football players from the 70s and 90s who married Europeans. And then we looked at it today and we realized it's got much more higher. And also many of the children are all technically biracial. So you're seeing that process there already. But we're joined by Melanated, Sister Melanated. Welcome to the Black Broadcast, Sister.
Peace, brother Raven, and peace to your chat and everyone else who is listening. I just joined because I found your response to my question. I was actually surprised, because like I would say in the U.S., which is another European country, I would say the continental Africans probably like a very high number. Like, their men date white women. Not to say that Black American men don't. But it's just more often a Black American man is going to seek a Black American woman. And I don't know what the numbers are. Maybe it's like 3 out of 10 or 4 out of 10 or 2 out of 10. I don't know what the numbers are. But they do tend to date like white women. But when you say more Caribbean, like and when you're talking about like Caribbean men, they're usually gonna go with another Caribbean woman or a Black American woman, and then non-Black women. But at least here in the States, so it's just like it just sounded like it's just night and day, like the opposite.
Yeah.
Like we see more continental Africans. You guys see more Caribbean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
definitely, that's how it's here. I mean, I'm just wondering. I'm just wondering with the Africans who marry let's say Europeans. Is there any cases of people marrying to stay in the country? Is that a thing over there? Not really.
I would say that goes, but that's like amongst all immigrants.
Right.
That would be So whereas um a person who's married to stay in the country could definitely seek a black person who is able to stay in the country. You know what I
True,
mean? Like
true. Yeah,
they
right.
definitely have those as options.
Mm.
Um, so for instance, I grew up in like my community was majority immigrants, right? And
Mhm.
I don't recall seeing a bunch of white people in my neighborhood. And so those people were getting married and staying in the country, but they were not with white people. Like I know personally people who have been in those type of marriages. They
Mm.
weren't right. No, there's never ever. It's like, hey, I know a young man. Da 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 da. It's always auntie, coordinating the situation, and it's usually black man going to a black woman going to a black. Like I don't. That's not a thing. You know.
No, hair
You.
is definitely a thing. It's Caribbean men. I mean, black men in general. When you look at the data, but if you were to split it by region, because there's three kind of um, chapters in the UK. So they have Black Caribbean, Black African, and Black Other, and then you can split each the Caribbean by the nations and each African by the nations. And other, I assume, must be maybe if you're not from Africa directly, if you're not from Caribbean, maybe African American, or maybe Aborigine, or something, some other kind of black
Okay,
from.
yeah. So African American would be a other. That sounds horrible. Y'all need to change that. We family.
No, I think no. What it is, it's the UK have a thing where they have this thing called IC3, and it's like a code of how they recognize people phenotypically. So because African countries and Caribbean countries have been colonized and were asked to come to the UK to fix up after World War II. There's millions and millions of Caribbeans and Africans, but there isn't that high population of African Americans. So they've made like
So
a
like
separate
African
group.
Americans, we wouldn't be IC3.
You would be IC3, but
Oh,
when you look at IC3, they separate into them three sections, which is Black Other, so basically it's Black Caribbean, Black African, and they left Black Other for anyone who isn't of those two past colonies. So, for example, the small percentage of African Americans or maybe Black Canadians or Afro Brazilians, they will go in other, as in like we've put a section for people who's not from the Caribbean or from Africa, because those are the two main colonies that England conquered.
wow.
But because America went to war with England and separated, most of the black people stayed in America. They didn't come over here. Apart from
Okay.
I was looking at history. There was the black. I can't pronounce it. The something Scots. I can't say it bad. They went to Canada. I
Oh,
think
oh, Nova
say
Scotia.
Nova Scotia. You said it right. There you go. I understand that a lot of they were actually African Americans who decided to fight for the British for freedom, and I think
They
they
went
were
to. They went to. It's in Canada.
yeah they went to Canada.
Nova
Uh,
Scotia's in Canada. Yes.
yeah,
Um.
yeah. So that's the reason why there's another. But to answer the overall question, yes, um, yes, the Afro Caribbean is probably the ones who date the most. About overall, when it comes to dating out, Asian women date out the most, and I was going to cover it at one point, but because it's not, maybe just as a case study, but I've got videos of Asian women describing Asian men, and in my opinion, there is a form of self hate there, but it's not really something we cover here. But it would more be like a case study.
Hmm.
But
You
it's
know,
similar. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask you if you feel, and I'm definitely not trying to, bring. I wanted to be, you know, black first centered, right? But do
Mm.
you feel like the religion has impacted those lines of racial stuff to be blurred, where like for instance, like on a continent, you have people who could, you know, forget about tribal lines, but because we have the same belief. You're Muslim, I'm Muslim, we can now marry, right? And now and you bring that to the West, and you have a black man who now has like a billion people, or half a billion, right, as a dating options now because they now share the same faith. Do you
Mm.
think that these men are not necessarily seeing, or I need to marry a black Muslim woman, but I just need to marry a Muslim? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Or a woman who's willing to convert. And so that it really opens up their dating pool to women, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying, as opposed to women of their group,
yeah.
their ethnic group.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. What it is it's establishing a purpose, and I think with religion it gives people a purpose. And when I was in speaker school and other places, a lot of black people place high importance on their religion, as you will understand. But they view religion obviously as something very important, and being black is just something that happened. But they don't put two and two together that a lot of the misfortune they've gone through is by being black, and also that if they don't come together and do something, whatever is happening will continue. A lot of people also are happy to abandon ship when it comes to blackness. So if you give them an out, they'll take it. So religion is the easy out, and it's something for them to like really indulge in. But as we try to demonstrate, when you look at all forms of religion that you have from black and white existing together, at the very bottom you see black, and at the very top you see white or Arab, and this is something that we try to teach so that people can have their religion as they see fit, but remember that practicing black betterment is very important. But to answer your question, yeah, it does play. It definitely does play a hand. Welcome, brother Razor. We're waiting for you to connect, but there we go. It's connected.
Good evening.
Good evening. You're in there. Welcome.
Yeah, it's been a while, isn't it? Good evening to everybody else that's in this very interesting subject.
Mm. Do you have any opinions on anyone? Are you talking about the how long it would take before Caribbean UK community is fully white, or the others?
It's the main subject actually, because I literally just hopped on. I know I saw your notice because I know you kind of jumped off then jumped back in again. I had to do something, but okay. So if I was to say overall black, a lot of men seem to be making babies and dealing with people outside the race.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would say a certain type of younger person, let's say those coming up to their 30s, where black being with black and marrying black, regardless if you're African or Caribbean, it's actually happening, which I never thought I would see, because I just thought everyone would just want to have half-caste babies and that. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to talk about the bloody rivers of blood speech, but you know what I mean? There's just a whole... This is something that's been happening for a while. I'm a man of a particular age, and I kind of saw this happening from like the mid-90s and onwards.
Right.
I say give it another 30 to 50 years, and people will start looking a particular kind of way. Do you know what I mean? I don't know, Raven. I think you probably
Are you
might
saying that they
understand
won't look black?
They'll have some type of features, so to speak.
Look at this. Look at this.
I'm part Jamaican.
Let's rewind.
What country are you from?
I'm part Jamaican.
Who's Jamaican?
My dad,
And what country do people think you're from?
British, basic British person.
Why?
And pale, just look like an average white person.
What country do you think they are from?
From Balland,
Why?
because Nike and hairstyle.
Because of the Nike.
Yeah, because of the Nike.
Yeah, I understand. And what country are you from?
From Syria,
And what country do people think you're from?
Pakistan.
Why?
Because I'm brown, I live with a Pakistani.
All right, cool. Let's go back. So yeah, and we've got a picture of what's his name again? What's that actor called on the right?
I was just about to ask you who's that.
What's his name again? He did what film was he done? A Fight Club.
That's not Brad Pitt.
Yes, Brad Pitt dressed as Bob Marley. Apparently, I don't think it's
No,
I think
you're
so.
freaking
There's a-
lying.
There's
Yeah,
a film called True Romance, and I'm sure Brad Pitt was actually a Rasta. Very high
yeah.
Rastafari, yeah.
Well, yeah.
That film is
wait.
banging, by the way.
Wait a minute. That is Brad Pitt right there pretending to be Bob Marley.
So I was
Nah,
told.
nah. It's just
Rasta.
watch True Romance. I don't know if you like that type of movie, but if you can find it, watch it. It's got Christian Slater, Patricia Arquette, and a whole bunch of people like Dennis Hopper, and it's like a grimy movie. Do you know what I mean? So I don't
It's
know.
called what? It's called what?
No, it's a grimy movie. It's about a guy who
What's the name
falls
of What's
upon
the name of it?
True Romance.
True
That
Romance.
was it was
Yeah,
written by what's his name?
Tarantino.
Guy done Kill Bill, right?
Yeah, and it was directed by Tony Scott. Rest in peace.
Right, great. But yeah, so like you said, bro, how long will it take before the Caribbean UK community is fully white? Yeah, well, the thing is without purpose, unfortunately, from what I'm concluding, without actual purpose, just by osmosis, people will do what they're doing. So if naturally black men, especially Caribbean, are just naturally not building stuff and marrying black women, then that gentleman you saw there who identified as Jamaican will be a population. If we observe, before you jumped on, we've done case studies of the football, for example, just as like a micro kind of study. So when you look at the football players who play for England in the 70s and 90s, this is who they married, all the ones who actually made the squad. And we had 21 so far, and then 5 who do marry black sisters, so 10 points to them. But then when we look at today, a lot of the people who play for England now, a lot of them are actually have one black parent themselves, and they've obviously chosen white people, and it's much more than it was in the early days. And once again, the brothers who marry sisters much more fewer, 7 and 10 points to them as well. So it's just by naturally going to happen unless you have philosophies and purposes to make black people do certain things. Black people will always tend to go for the non-black choice. Like even the sister was talking about religions and culture and stuff, but when you go to like Dominican Republic and some of these places, you'll find that the African history, the African religions will be more demonized, while the European and the Spanish will be more upheld. This is a constant thing that we see everywhere you find black people. And remember that it isn't like the World War, like with the Jewish people had a war with who were murdered by the Nazis. The Nazis were eventually beaten by the Europeans who came in to add assistance. So then all the propaganda can be reversed and change can make. Technically, apart from Haiti, which we'll come back to another time, there was no real victory over the enslavers. They just stopped for many reasons. So there is no reverse process of making those people see value in self. More than likely, what you're seeing, especially in the Caribbean, the UK, is people who are seeing themselves as integrated. So if you try to talk to them about the importance of black love, they'll talk to you about integration and we are the world, that kind of stuff. But they won't ever talk about the importance of industry, ownership, and families. So that's why, unfortunately, without these kind of conversations and direction, eventually, at least the Caribbean community first, from the men's side, will be predominantly European in 1 or 2 generations.
Can I ask you a question, Raven?
Go ahead.
Do you think, like, I don't know, I don't really want to ask you your age, but like, what era was you born in? I was born in the late 70s. So what about
I was born in the early 80s.
So like between 80 and 84.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you're kind of like the tail end of Gen Xers. So we kind of went through slightly similar things.
Right.
Now there was conscious things going on, especially in London at the time. But the question I want to ask is, do you think a lot of black men in the UK have a certain sense of pride when it comes down to, being black and identifying with their blackness?
No, of course not. Absolutely not. That I think that the UK is successful at creating a kind of we're all in together concept, and unfortunately, the black community, more particularly men, tap into that. But it's that awareness of struggle isn't something that seems to be really known about. So technically, we're not really owning much in the UK, if anything, but that's not really an issue because of the false belief that we're integrated and what's theirs is ours and what's ours is theirs. But we're not really observing like Jewish community, the Asian community, and all these communities really do kind of benefit off Black people's ignorance by being able to open up in predominantly Black areas and have Black people dedicated to supporting their industries and also preferring to go to the industries. Like I said, I was in Speaker's Corner where a Caribbean gentleman, a very nice guy, he came up to me and says, "Look, I know you're doing Black Bearment work, but I won't do anything with you if there's a Black man who's handling the finance." So it's it's like
sorry to laugh, but you know what?
But what I'm saying is, this is what I'm saying is people are confident to highlight these things. They're confident. That's like I will go on a panel when I'll talk about Black love, and they're confident to jump in and fight as a unit to shoot down Black love and say, my cousin married a Polish woman, my other cousin married a Hispanic woman. And when they're saying this, they're full of great pride. Like, it's like, this is, even though the topic is about how to fix Black economics and Black ownership and the importance of it, me personally, I've always said it. If you want to know the most pushback I've ever got, it's promoting Black love, without question. If you just follow me on Speaker's Corner, and I can speak forever. As soon as I mention Black love, tables are flying and stuff. So
I remember the phrase you guys use called kumbayarism.
Yeah.
I still remember that.
Yeah.
But there was another. Can I ask another quick question?
Go ahead, my friend.
So like you were saying, you're being in these panels and people were talking with pride about the other, being, let's say it blatantly, being in an interracial relationship more than being with their own kind.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think, like in your own personal opinion, it started to turn up more in regards to that? That's a silly question to ask.
Where do you think? I think it's been that way for some time, to be honest. I think like you get pushback, like for example the Black Panthers and stuff, where they that kind of, like when that happened in America and it came over to the UK, and having sense in Black pride, but generally it's always been there, and I can't see any narrative that changed it. Like what I really try to get across to everyone is, if we don't be specific of what we're trying to do, then what is happening will continue. And that's why I keep saying Black ownership, Black families, and Black economics. Because you have to be very specific. You see, sometimes we can be in circles where we're not actually talking about anything, and there's no actual plan. But I tried to give an example of in America where Asian people were being attacked allegedly for Asian hate, and specifically
Asian crime bill and that shit.
Yeah, they specifically said Asian, and they came together and they made sure, and this is where they're allegedly being attacked on the streets. Black people in America, the African Americans, have been gunned down and murdered, and they do not use anti-Black at all as a word. You see, so what I'm saying is, it's a form of disorganization, but it's also a general dishatred and loathing for Black people, but also knowing that Black people are not that organized. So it's probably. But we're joined by brother. Is it Vix? Is that right, brother?
Yep. Can you hear me?
We kept a bit low. Are you close to the mic at all?
Yeah, I'm closer now. Can you hear me now?
Okay. Well, I'm gonna say yes. Can you guys hear him?
It sounds a bit distant. I can kind of hear him, but it just sounds a little bit distant.
Yeah.
Should I put on headphones?
Well, yeah. Experiment. Let's see if it works. Then that'll be good. We'll give you time to put on. It'll be good to hear your voice. I think. Did you message me on Instagram? Was it you, brother?
Yeah, it was me.
You saw the correction. Yeah, thanks for that. Well done. Spotting the typo. Very helpful.
Is that better? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm gonna say yeah.
Oh, is that better now?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Go ahead. Do you have a question?
Yeah. In regards to this, like, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. Like, I've seen it a lot, but I think it's been like this for a long time.
Mm.
Well, like, I've seen the
Okay.
last like 25 years or so.
Mm. Are you talking about the Caribbean community becoming European or white?
Yeah. I think it's definitely happening. Like, when you leave your house and you see like people like interacting, like you're seeing it more and more. Like they're getting lighter and lighter.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
something I'm definitely seeing is I'm always aware that when I see couples in certain places, I do notice many black men with non-black women, more particularly white women. I'm also looking at others as well and seeing, and that ratio is always being higher, to be honest. Um, but yeah, that's what it is. But obviously, I mean, to get a bit more direct, we do talk about the history of racial whitening, you see, which is here. We talk about the reasons why racial whitening came about, and it was originally to destroy black people. Uh, they used the term Ham's redemption, and then we talk about historically there are two type of racial strategies: racial segregation and racial whitening. Racial segregation happened more so in the Caribbean, USA, and South Africa with apartheid and Jim Crow. Um, while racial whitening happened more so in Australia, the UK, and the Arab world, where they're using marriage and intimacy and procreation as a method to destroy black people. Um, so that's something to be aware of. I'm just gonna. I'm just. There we go. We're trying. Welcome, Razors back and King Kel. Welcome back,
Hello.
brother Kel. And welcome.
King Kels. Going on, bro?
Black Betterman brothers, big up brother Razor,
Big up, man.
sister Melanic Goddess, brother Raven, pleasure always, big up kings, queens, big up.
Peace, Cal. Peace,
Long time,
Cal.
long time.
So this is a recap for people joining live. We I think there's been some issues with YouTube, so we had to stop some of the streaming. But other people told me it's a YouTube issue. But we've started again. But we covered three topics today, which is we're consistently week to week going to talk about Africa is rising because of the coups, and we focus on the Gabon. President Gabon arrested in his house today. There's a picture of him with his wife on the left. And then what can be done to tackle anti-black murder? I'm just going to mute some. I think someone might. Let me just mute this. Hold on. Yeah, there you go. What's saying? What can be done to tackle anti-black murder in the USA? Unfortunately, in Jacksonville, there was a white supremacist who killed 3 black people, and then killed himself. We was looking at connecting the dots about how the speed of how America tries to protect non-black people with bills, but when it comes to protecting black people, for some reason they don't seem to do it. And then obviously the last but by no means least, we have how long will it take before the Caribbean community is fully white? And we just looked at a video with a white perceived Jamaican identified person, and we're just saying that we do see trends that at some point, majority, if not all, of Caribbeans will be white people. And I think they mentioned this in The Voice magazine a couple of weeks back, where I think a community in some city, I forgot which it was, shame on me, they don't recognize the Caribbean community anymore. And this also is connected to ownership as well as economics. Not really owning your high road, your industries, your shops, that kind of stuff. So anyway, welcome, Brother Razor. Welcome, King Kel, and obviously Brother Vix, who I've muted, by the way, so if you're speaking, be muted. But any questions you guys would like to do, now you guys have the floor, really.
Let Kels come in.
Yeah, this big up brother, we have to tighten up with the treaties, isn't it? You know, our brothers and sisters in America, we definitely more segregation and treaties. You know, I know they're allowed to bear arms over there, which is a good thing. and at the same time creating these allies, man. I mean, I don't really know too much what happened with the brother who killed 3 of our people out there, but you know, we're on our own, brothers, sisters, man. So you know, we have to do what the Panthers did. You know what I mean? Of like policing our own areas and being very tight. You know, that's all we can do. We can't, you know, rely on the government because they're not for us. You know, say that when the people's ready, the master will appear. So the people, we have to kind of rely on ourselves, man, and not focus on our leaders who have their hands behind their back and can't do anything. But we're the majority, so only we can create our own protection. And then when we organize, that's when we can kind of go against, you know, discriminative laws. You know what I mean?
I feel you on that one.
I hear that.
Can I say something really quickly?
You certainly can.
I don't know if the American lady is there. Is she still there?
She is.
Okay. I just want to let her know.
I'm the African in America. Go ahead.
Oh, cool. Oh, cool. Well, salute to you. I just want to let you know that we're now on our 4th unelected prime minister in the UK, and having a brown face means jack diddly squat. There'll never be a black prime minister of this country. It might be a half white one, cough cough, i.e. the conversation. However, no one black is going to be prime minister of this country. All of this is window dressing, and the type of people that would be there, even if it was fully black, are the same people that will keep the wogs on the plantation in line. So with that said, personally, I agree with a lot with what Kel said. There seems to like, I would like to see a bit more collaboration between us and Americans. I don't think there's enough dialogue. I know some people are trying to do it on YouTube, but we're in our own backyard. Yeah, we do need to tighten up. Gentrification is definitely a thing in London. It's still, you know, people ain't talking about it, but it's still happening. I don't know if you check My London or anything like that, but Tottenham Hell right now is, when it used to be dirty and grimy, right now it's got all these tower blocks and stuff. Lots of redevelopment in places like Lewisham and places like that. Like it's, you know, I know certain people in my life, they don't live in London no more. They're all black. I mean, shit, even my own sister don't live in London no more. So something has to happen.
To add to your saying, so when it comes to politicians, one of the strategies we have is it doesn't really necessarily matter if they're black, if they've got one black parent, regardless of the genetic makeup of the person. It's more so, do they have policies that are for black people specifically? And you find that they don't. But also, what we can tell is we can tell by the behavioral patterns before they even open their mouth whether they're going to be beneficial to black people. And if you look at the screen at the moment, these are black people or one-parent black people, all of them, all the African descendants who are on the actual who are male, who are politics in the UK, and every single one of them married to a white woman.
You smacked it, bro. I'd say that. Yeah, I don't know where you got this shit from, but yeah, you smacked it.
And also, one of the gentlemen identifies as homosexual, and that gentleman is also married to a white man. So what you're saying is, these are the patterns. So
damn, he can't even be with a black man. That's crazy.
So what I'm saying is, when you see these patterns and how consistent they are, then you don't need to have a conversation with an unsynchronized black person, because they don't necessarily know better, as in they live in a script. So that's why you have to have a purpose in conversation, and the purpose is, you know, do you value black betterment? Okay, what do people have to collectively do to achieve that? And that's when you present templates, right? And obviously the template is constructive black man and constructive black woman. And even if a person doesn't live that, what you can't allow them to do is to try to create a benchmark rebranding of justification of not marrying a black woman. You see, as in, like, you can do that, but that has nothing to do with pro-blackness or black betterment or any kind of method that's going to collectively contribute to black people furthering ourselves. And I had this conversation with a friend the other day where you know, he was trying to explain that you can be pro-black and marry a non-black woman, and I was saying that even if that was true, which it can't be, that concept doesn't benefit black people, because once you allow that concept of saying you can be seen as a pro-black person and not marry a black person, then already you're allowing a concept where 5 men are on stage gathering an award for black work, or it might be, and all 5 of them have white wives. That is what does happen. So when you look at like football players, they all have white wives. So once you open the door, then it happens. So it's understanding what is the templates that is beneficial to black people and what should be promoted.
Yeah, absolutely. You're on point.
When we look at the screen as well, what we did this a few months back in America. They were trying to elect a Supreme Court person to run the Supreme Court, and we got all the names of the people we knew and we could find on them. And for the ones that got through was the ones on the left. I think it was a top left sister who might have won, if I'm correct.
There was one particular woman in America. She was getting all the press.
Yeah, so she's on the screen at the moment. I think it was Ketanji Brown.
Yeah, that's her name. Ketanji.
Yeah, well, her husband's obviously European, but all the other people who were very close also married to Europeans. And the sisters who I couldn't find them who were married, I couldn't find anything. So I put a question mark. And that's like a pattern I was also observing, where men tend to marry white women in these political spaces, while black women also do marry white men, but you tend to find that a lot of them just might not be married at all. So that's another pattern that I was observing.
Mm-hmm.
That's very interesting you said that. Yeah. And I don't know if it's to do with position or status in life, job, even earnings. I don't know if there's a lot of them who are single, they're single with kids, or something. I don't know, some type of situation.
Yeah,
it's a lot more difficult for a woman. It's a lot more difficult for a woman at a certain position in her life and in her career, to meet to find a black man who is single and is pretty much like at her level, right? Especially when you're older, or like if you have children. I think that kind of changes the way dating looks. So if you're a female politician, who would be someone for you to marry, for him to be like still like your husband, and you could, he's gonna be out in the media and so forth. It's not like she could just be married to a bus driver, or you know what I'm saying, like a plumber. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? So like so now who's her dating pool, right? Someone who's like of some stature. Well, that person is probably freaking married already. That's probably why. You see what I'm saying? So like she's in a really small pool of potential men to be married. She should have got married straight out of college.
Yeah. I mean, one thing we say is we observe that that you tend to find that black women, from the case studies I've done, have a higher rate of wanting to be with a black man, but for a certain circumstance, we'll find it difficult to find one. But I tend to find that black men, it has a high ratio of wanting to be with the daughters of white men, that kind of stuff. So you can observe that. Case in point, we're actually covering Gabon, the president who's in house arrest, and he married a French woman, and he's one of a few African presidents who is married to women who are particularly from the country that colonized them. You see? And once again, you see this behavioral pattern. You don't see it in Europe. You don't see too many Europeans, if any, married to African women or men. But you do see it in Africa. So it's the thing. It's unique. That's why having lifestyles and purposes and actually kind of like doctrines or whatever it is, where you clearly label like this behavior is what works best for black people for this reason. not doing this, it doesn't count for this, and that's why not before when people ask me, can you be pro-black and marry a non-black person, I would just be silent and go, oh, maybe, I don't know. It wasn't something I was really entertaining. But now at this fundamental, no, you can't. You actually can't. And if you could, I would campaign to make sure that doesn't ever happen. You can't.
Because in political science as well, that that isolating the victim that you're trying to persuade is very, very dangerous in this position. We're taught to not advocate for non-African people to even be in your house as much, because when they're in your sanctuary, they are observing your tactics. You see what I'm saying? And lowering your guard. So when they're ready to pounce and attack you, you are basically defenseless. So it's very unfortunate that the president hasn't understood the political science, that they are your enemies regardless, you know what I mean? And the fact that she's in your kingdom, you have lost the war. She knows how you think, know what you're going to do. And it's nothing to do because she's a woman, by the way. It's to do with the collective power she's from, just to get that out there. She's understood all your tactics, as what Sun Tzu says, right? The art of war is deception, is that if you know your enemy, right, and you know yourself, you can win 1,000 wars. So she's definitely won that battle with her people, and we don't seem to understand that.
Yeah, I might do another slide of all the African presidents who's married to Europeans and where they're from, and you'll find that they're all from. Well, a lot of them are French, to be honest, and they're married European French women. But like you kind of need to have a I don't know, a kind of campaign or awareness or just stance on, these are the things you can do to get in the collective good books of black people. And if you're a well-to-do, rich black man, find a constructive black woman, and that really will work towards your campaign. And we need to highlight that. It just seems once again, if you talk to black people in general, they'll always give you an amazing story, but you can't really go by the story. You have to go by the data, and the data is way too high. You see, and that means that the only thing I can do now is just say that once you're involved in these kind of things, you lose certain titles, and definitely the community cannot allow the term pro-black to be used on a person who's not married to a black person or not trying to be a black person.
Well, the thing is as well, brother, is that we know the blueprint. You know what I mean? Think about one of the greatest books that's been written, The Destruction of the Black Civilization by Chancellor William. He's broken it down, what happens, when you interact with the non-Africans and how it lowers our guard. So I noticed with us, unfortunately, instead of being objective with principles to guard emotion, we're very subjective emotionally. We just don't think, oh, times have changed, so I'm powerful, I got the kingdom, so I can marry a non-African woman or non-African man. But your dopamines are still connected to being subservient to them. And ancestors have spoke about this. That's why Garvey and the rest of them, they made it perfectly clear. You shouldn't, it's not because some ego or to test you, is that we're not disciplined. There's a big difference. You're not disciplined when you're around non-African people. You seem to become under a spell, and you sabotage the whole movement.
So Frank, big up brother Virtual Oath Studios. He's highlighted. I just googled it. The Ivory Coast and the Guinea president. They're both married to Europeans. From the countries they've let me check this. Make sure. This woman's from. I was checking. So this one's French Algerian, but generally, it's interesting that. It's I don't know if it's but what we welcome a sister, Empress Kush. Welcome, sister.
Batman family.
Batman.
Hey sis.
Hey sis. And bless up Razor. I don't think I've been on a panel with you.
Yeah, it's been a while for me, but nice to hear you.
Welcome.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Ray.
So, sister, yeah, we started. We're going to be doing week to week Africa's Rising. Because you did give a very good insight last week of good ideas to do that. So we're covering Gabon. As you know, I don't know if you know what Gabon is the next to join the coup. But
Mm.
just ironically, we did cover the president before, Mr. Bongo, because he was one of the many African presidents who married a European woman from a country that colonized him. So we've covered him before, but not obviously he's in house arrest at the moment. Um,
Mhm.
but then we also went on to talk about how to tackle anti-black murder in the USA and looked at how the Asian community get bills very quickly, but the black community don't seem to get any. And
Yeah.
then last but not least, we looked at how long it will take before the Caribbean UK community is fully white. We looked at a video of a white-looking person with an English accent saying their dad's Jamaican or something like this, and no one knows that they're Jamaican or something like this. So I'll show you now. It's only 7 seconds.
I'm part,
What country are you from?
I'm part Jamaican.
Who's Jamaican?
My dad's
And what country do people think you're from?
British, basic British person.
Why?
And pale, just look like an average white person.
So we were saying that kind of that's how the majority of
Future.
yeah, not too long from now. So yeah, and we were looking at certain kind of historical things that's happened, and racial whitening, how it's a very
Yeah.
effective tool to disrupt ownership and economics.
No, absolutely. I have been trying to listen on, but I didn't know if it was me or the YouTube, to be honest with you, because I was getting a lot of difficulties. So I have been listening, trying to listen in. But I've been agreeing with most of the points. I just wanted to jump on and just support.
Mm.
So I'll just kick back and
Okay.
listen for now. But I was saying, just because I've managed to catch some of the family on as well, I did want to possibly, and I spoke to you about this last week, so maybe start with the African series maybe next week. So I was just hoping, I know Cal's really into it, so I was hoping that I was going to message him offline anyways, just give him a message. But I just thought to just bring that up because I know that the Gabon, it's pretty recent. I'd say within the last couple of days.
Yeah.
Um, I wasn't too sure about his wife, but I'm seeing her in front of me now. But he's under house arrest, right? So I mean, they're getting out, they're getting rid of them. But I know that there's still some controversy in regards to the people who are, because I think before there was hopes that this was just another revolution, but there's a lot of signs saying that this new person coming in or the new coup coming in might just be some form of a plant. And they're using the guides of Pan-Africanism, which I feel is like like the new buzzword. I don't mean it in that way as well. So that's why I don't really want to say the word buzzword, but I mean it's a calling card. It's a calling card where real revolutionaries are talking, right, bro? So it's a calling card where real revolutionaries are talking about Pan-Africanism. And I feel that the ones up to this point of Gabon I've been loving. That's why I really want to do a covering on it, and hopefully Brother Cal wants to assist and do that with me on the shows. But this one here we're not too sure of, so for that reason I'm not necessarily going to say anything good or bad on him until I do my own research. But the other revolutionaries, I'm not going to call them a coup because I think they're a revolutionary. I don't understand how we're talking about democracy and the people of the land want these people in charge, and yet foreign people are saying that they're not meant to be in charge in the name of democracy. It makes no sense to me. It's a revolution. The people of these countries have chosen who they want as leaders, barring the Gabon recent one. And I think that's a revolution. I think that they're not going to let people in France tell them who they're going to have as their leaders. So I don't think that's a coup. I just think the country is finally standing up for itself. But yeah, so that's how I feel about that. But the Gabon thing, it's a bit disappointing, and it's also a bit worrying because I know that when I jumped on, we was talking about people using the guidance of pro-blackness and then they're using that to just do whatever they want to do, or they use that to reel people in, and then in the end we find out that they're nothing to do with pro-blackness. They don't even care about it. And because I feel like the West has seen what's got, clearly the West are very clued up on what's going on in Africa. I think that that's what they're doing with this Gabon guy, where he's saying the good things that people want to hear. But if we look about his affiliations in his history, it doesn't look like he's a Pan-Africanist. It looks like he's more affiliated to the West.
Are you talking about the president in arrested, or the guy coming in?
The guy that's coming in, unfortunately.
Right. Let me check.
Yeah. And I think that, my little head, I was obviously expecting something like this. There's no way that you can have this much African countries literally telling you to get your troops out, want our money out of your banks. We don't want any of your delegates in our land, and they just be sitting back quietly. They've been known for putting agents and whatever you want to call them amongst the ranks of revolutionaries. So this Gabon might be that one. But again, I'll do my own research on it. But the things that I have heard doesn't make me as excited as I have been the other couple of times I've come on and spoken about Africa and what's been happening in coming times. But I mean, this is inevitable. And I just think that we're constantly talking about wanting to see us as a people go further. And we know that every country that has done great has to have a base. Our base is not America. It's not the West, right? We're already dying out here. Our base needs to be the Caribbean, Africa. And if the people on the continent are starting to actually revolutionize, that needs to be our focus. That we need to be looking at that. We need to be, because all of what's going on there is exactly the stuff that we're talking about now. The politics, the politricks, the lies, the scheming, it's all currently happening. Like, so I'm hopefully, most high willing, we can get on to covering it, because there's so much as well. Just when I think I understand something else has happened. Even the likes of like ECOWAS and Nigeria and things that's happening there, it's not a good look when you have, people in Africa, African citizens, Nigerians, talking about they're going to go in and fight the war on behalf of the West. So again, with manipulation and having corrupt people as leadership, we're not going to get anywhere. But in our lifetime, if we're seeing, what are we on now? 1, 2, 3, 4th, possibly the 5th country within how many months? There's something happening on our continent, on our land. And I just think that I'm glad that more and more people are bringing more and more awarenesses, and we're talking about it more. So yeah, I just think it's a very interesting thing. Even if it's just to keep an eye on it each week, would do us good as well.
Yeah, because it'd be interesting if like Cote d'Ivoire, Togo, and Benin, like they go the same way. That would be interesting. I'd still probably scratch my chin like, but yeah, I want to see how this plays out. Seriously,
Absolutely.
There's a lot of that land is very rich, mineral rich, and it's very green as well. I mean, a lot of people have their ideas on Africa and what it looks like, but there's a lot of rivers there, a lot of green, a lot of oil. I don't know. I find it fascinating. I do, and even connecting to the conversation we were having earlier about those with white wives and so on and so forth. I think just a lot of our minds have been co-opted by others, and I don't know. Just I don't know if it's not a case of being scared. I don't think there's not a true belief in self. I think us in the West, there's a lot of us that believe in self. We probably had to go through our own journey to strip away layers of I guess taught self-hatred and certain other ideologies. When it comes to those from the Caribbean and on the continent, like you'd be surprised, like the mentality is nuts. But I do see certain generations, they're just not having it. They really just they literally don't give a fuck. They really, really are not giving two
Brother,
shits about the old people.
brother, can you hear me?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We try to not use certain language at this time if possible.
Oh, sorry, man. I'm sorry. Nah, so please forgive me, but what I was trying to say was like I just think there's a certain generations that just really they're educated enough now in regards to what they know outside their own country even, and being able to see the world, and the only way they can do that is via the internet, because the idiot box is in your phone and you can have connections with anywhere just via your phone, let alone the television or your PC. So there's connects that's been happening on a digital space, and to be honest, it's quite funny actually. There's a lot of like satirizing and slightly comedic stuff that's going on. I'm enjoying it personally, but I'm just not on TikTok or Snapchat or anything. I don't mess with that. I keep it very basic.
Yeah, you're not going to get any of the information about what's happening in Africa clearly from the West anyway. You're definitely not going to get it from TikTok. You need to go into media that's not West affiliated, which is also really an interesting dive as well, to be honest with you. When you're actually taking in news that's not Western, you're quite surprised at how, like you said, a lot of Africa anyway has got the largest young population yet. And they're all interested in what's going on in their country. They're not interested in so much of who's wearing what rapper got killed, or this, that, and the other. It's the youth that are leading the revolution. SARS, what happened in Nigeria, they were the youth. And that's what they do with us in the West. They dumb us down. And this is the perfect time to have everything that's happening right now that's sensationalized that we're getting. I know it's a distraction, because there is no way they want us to be looking over in Africa to see what's happening.
They're ready in Africa. The last time I was in the continent, they are actually ready, to be honest with you, which makes sense why they're causing these distractions. The Africans on the continent, they're not messing about. A good thing as well is having contact with those on the continent to give you the information, so you don't have to rely on the Western media. Having a WhatsApp, family members or close friends, they tell you truthfully what's going on in the village and in the city, and then you can strategize that way. You know what I mean?
No, definitely. I see Chemo said that he believes that the current one in Gabon is a plant, but he says that he believes they're all plants, which is I understand, and I think that as well. We don't want to go in with a head of thinking that, oh, everything's great and everything, but it's good for us to keep and monitor it. Like I said, I don't think that this has happened within our generation, this much countries. And I know the leader of Burkina Faso, who literally styles himself off of Thomas Sankara, which speaks volumes, right?
Yeah.
Horrible.
Did you say horrible?
I don't believe him at all. If it's the same guy I'm thinking about with the white wife, no. I saw the media stuff building up to him.
I'm not sure if that guy's got the wife.
Ibrahim Toure doesn't.
We're not talking about the same guy.
It's a different person then.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, you'll know who I'm talking about, because he literally wears the beret. He styles himself off of Thomas Sankara in every sense. And he's been the one who has sat. I mean, I'll bring some videos and stuff in it for next week, so we can get an understanding. But if you see the passion and the resolute, that when he's looking at these other, because they've had a few meetings, and when he's looking around at the other leaders in Africa and what he's saying, and he's even said that one thing that did make me look at him, I favor him a bit more, is because he did say that after 2 years I will do an election. Right? And we know from the history of Africa is when these people get in control, they're in forever. Yeah, and that's one of the biggest worries. He said, even though he has taken it over, even though there is millions of people on the streets literally chanting his name and loving him, right? He has still said, I will do a national election in 2 years. So it's not like, so that already to me is a different kind of speech than what we've seen from others. So I understand why chemo or other people, even other people that I know, are a bit, they're, you know, they're not going to jump too fast. But I do think that we need to monitor it, because to me, this is when a real revolution is going to happen. I've said this many times. I think it's going to happen on the soil. And I think that the only way that they're going to do it is this way. There is no other way. So until they do something wrong, then we can say something. But if right now they're doing stuff that, like, as well, the reason why it's important to share this information is because the West has cut them off.
Yeah.
Off. They don't have no food. They don't have no supplies to medical. You know, there's a lot going on right now, you know, and of course they're not going to show any of that in the media. So it would be important for perhaps us to start showing stuff from other places that we get this information, to show how hard the West are really punishing these people, but they're not even talking about it over here. They dare not, because they know it looks bad. What are you going to say? That these countries want to be a sovereign country. They're trying to govern themselves. We're forcing them to put this leader in. So, yeah, I understand wanting to be sure or being a bit skeptical, but if we take the time to look into it, there's a real revolutionary happening. And if we think about, just take our feelings out of it and just think, what does a revolution look like? It's very similar to what's happening right now on the ground. You know, the people who make the media and the news, they're not going to be supporting this, right? That's what's happening now. If they don't want people to be in the country, they're going to trying to remove their leader. That's what's happening now, because they're telling them to get your, like France, they've told France, we don't care. Stop your aid. It's done nothing for us. We're done. We don't want you here. They've told, there's another country that has literally told, they've banned mining and coming in for their gold. They say you've got to get out. Like, this is real war talk right now that this is happening, right? So yeah, I mean, to me, this is what a revolution looks like. I hope it is what I hope it is, but until they do a foot wrong, I'm going to support it, because it can't be easy on the ground right there what they're going through. And I'm sure.
And that's what I'm saying, beloved, is that while that's happening, I totally agree with everything, like understanding the political science, but not rely too much on the leaders. Us who are observing, we can do a little bit of funding. I'm going to codify that particular place needs, money, so let's put 10, because majority of us are doing that, beloved, because they've cut things off. You mentioned something that we not understand. They've cut things off, so naturally the African diaspora has to put a little bit of change. You know what I mean? Okay, so I've learned this now. I'm ready to make the migration over that. You see what I'm saying? And that while they're doing their thing, we can do our part as well. You know what I mean? Not so much the female, because we don't want the black woman. You understand? But us men, you know what I mean? Still do things. You know what I mean?
Every time we go out of a Tesco's or a Sainsbury's, what's there at the end? Like, there isn't a recession. Oh, can you donate tin cans to Ukraine because they're starving? We need, you know what I mean? There's things that we could do here. We could do a drive to make sure that there's medical aid going there, or support people who are doing that. So, for example, I think yesterday there was a march at 2:00, it was either today or yesterday, outside the French embassy. For people of the diaspora, thank you, bro. Yesterday, for people for the diaspora to stand outside there and show them that we're aware and we're not going to allow you to do it while we're here, because and you've got to remember what happened with Mandela. When they were doing this, I mean, I'm not old enough. I was born, but I was no way talking. But when the time came with Mandela and the sanctionings happened, it was the people, the diaspora in the West, who put pressure on the governments to lighten up the sanctions that's happening to the Africans. That's what happened. So I'm not saying that we did anything, but I'm saying when we have power on this side, they're doing what they need to do on their side. We can do a little something here on this side. If it's to give a tin of beans, if it's to make sure there's diapers, it's to find out who's doing the drives and making sure that those people have food. Because what a way to do, and there's I think it's Geneva Wars. There's something Geneva Conference, and there's these set of rules in war, and one of them is not to starve out the person, but apparently that doesn't apply to Black people in Africa. They're starving right now. So and they're not there yet, and they're not saying that they're starving, but if you read between the lines and you listen to people who are on the ground, and when they're saying that the roads are blocked, the blockages, that, you know, obviously they've stopped them flying around there, so you can't get aid in. You know, you've got a problem with Nigeria now, because Nigeria wants to be the West's puppet. Well, I won't say Nigerians, I'll say the president.
The president.
Yeah, exactly. I would never say the people, because when Tinubu tried to go in, he got rejected by who? The people. And that's what we need to talk about as well. So, you know, I'm telling you, this is interesting, and this is happening to us. I really think that, like, this is real full-on war happening in our lifetime, where our people are literally saying a revolutionary no to the West. It's literally David versus Goliath. Like, they've shut them down on everything, and then forced Nigeria to threaten them with war. Like, if this is not like divide and conquer, if this is not all the things we talk about, I don't know what else is. So, yeah, so I'll definitely try and do that as well, and look at agencies who are already up and running and who are doing things, especially the organizers. Thanks, Brother Cal, for reminding me, who went out there yesterday to the embassy, the French embassy. You know, they even chucked out the US as well. I've not heard much of UK, but I'm sure the UK is coming. That this is, and there's countries that are like, you've got Germany and Switzerland who won't stand up to the UK or France or America. You've got, like, this is real war talk what's happening right now. And then not to mention the Russia getting involved.
Oh, I wanted to talk about that.
Exactly.
Really.
So I mean, come on, it's all happening right now. You know, Putin is up there every day. Putin did a whole big, anyway, I don't want to take over this thing. I'll hold it down to next week. But what I'm saying is, this is the biggest, juiciest storylines going. This is better than anything that they're chucking at you. Anything. This is better than anything. And it's happening in real life. It's happening to our people. And to be honest with you, a lot rides on this. You know, other countries are going to be seeing what's going to happen. You know, are they going to allow this or not? And then the other colonized entities are paying attention as well. One thing that's pointed out to that has been striking to me is UK has been so silent on this.
Right.
So silent. America is, I can't swear, but America is definitely got the sweats, yeah, because of the million bases they've got over there. And even US has now changed its tactics. And the president of France publicly said that America's just left us. So this is all full war. We don't see this on the 10 o'clock news, but this is happening right now. So yeah, I just think there's a lot happening right now with Russia's input as well. The way Putin is just make it, you know, is it BRICS? What's going on with BRICS? The new countries introduced to BRICS to now challenge the G. So there's a lot going on, and it's very interesting. And the Putin thing is very interesting, you know, especially us as Black people with the interest of Russia, you know, because I know everyone's worried about China, and now you got Russia.
I'm worried about Russia.
We got loads and loads and loads and loads of documents and proof that Russians are now friends of Africans, and that we're gonna get to that next week.
Very much.
We're gonna get to that and that, because we're gonna talk about the Egyptian, what happened there. We're gonna get into it. So we know that they're not no friends, definitely.
Okay, so just because I thought I'd take it over, although like people are still involved in the convo. But so you saying that the Russia thing is just a no altogether?
Yes.
They're no friend of African people. Even when Gamal Abdel Nasser, the Egyptian president, who was good friends with Kwame Nkrumah, right? When they were trying to preserve the well in Egypt, right, against the British, etc., Russia came in to help out, but then Russia still controlled that water and caused problems. So historically, and that's all they're going to do. That's all they're going to do, and that it won't be for the best interest for Africa. It'll just be for the best interest of European establishment. Plus, we already know already, due to political science, Russia and British, and I mean, they claim to not like each other and that, but proof and evidence, Starling and all that kind of thing, they jam together. But there's more, as I said, we can go into it. There's so
Yeah.
many events and what they've done, but they're no friends of African people. I mean, look what's happening in Kenya. They even when it comes to the guards, they bully the guards in Kenya, unfortunately. You know what I mean? And these are Russian civilians, you understand, who are living over there. So you think to yourself, okay, if we're all friends, how are you able to bully the Kenyan guards with guns? You see what I'm saying? And that. So they're no friends of African people at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're
Oh, sorry, bro. I was just going to say, just because when I talk, I don't look at the comments, but I've seen that Chemo has been giving some great input as well, and I think he agrees. He's like, yeah, he's not interested in Russia at all. And big up, brother EIE as well. He's got a few comments on there as well. The Cold War was Western endeavor to solidify powers after the World War II. Russia was a big help to quell neo-colonialism. Anybody who don't know that, the Cold War, neo-colonialism, colonial powers taking advantage of the planet. So yeah, I think that maybe, hopefully everyone can come next week as well. I'll try and have something a bit more laid out. There's another question here from the group as well, for the group from Virtual Oath Studio, saying, what about BRICS? Is that bad as well?
BRICS is a changing of the guard. But the one thing I would, you know what I mean? The only thing I would say is that if let's say us as a panel got into currency trading, the only thing I know for a fact, we will be exploring different things, but the one currency that we will be trading the most is the American dollar, believe it or not. With BRICS, all that does right now, because with a lot of currencies, you need to have a certain amount of gold in your reserves. And if you look at South Africa, if you look at Russia, I'm trying to think. I can't remember the other countries for some reason. My mind's gone blank. But it's like 5 countries. I know China's involved as well. It's the thing is, I don't know how much of it is going to be physical or digital currency. That's the only thing I don't know, because I know they're trying to make the transition into more, beg my pardon, more digital space. But it still happens, like you still need to have some type of leverage. So the leverage normally would be gold or some type of physical, something physical. It has to be that way, because crypto is interesting, but we're talking about the world stage. So I want to see this play out personally for me. So, I mean, it's not going to affect the UK at all. The only people that's going to affect the UK is the fact that the UK bank is not owned by the UK government, and how much interest rates is going to rise, and if the Bank of England is just playing silly buggers, talking rubbish about, oh, well, us who are the working class, the middle class, even the upper middle class, will have to pay for this and pay for that, while the rich swan on and just be rich. There's always a tax levy against those who don't reside in the upper echelon, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, I just think this BRICS thing would be interesting, and if we were able to, especially from here in the UK, if we're able to grab that, now that would be even more interesting. Imagine if a whole bunch of people just grabbed BRICS and started trading with it and started using it. The tipping balance, the only other currency that's about as strong as the euro, believe it or not. Yeah, that's all I want to say.
I think for me, BRICS is an interesting one because it's standing on real market, like fair participation in the market, in the global market. So you've got, is it the G20?
Yeah. Every year.
Yeah, and so it's a set 20 countries. Amongst all the countries in the world, they decide everything, right? What's going to happen. And to me, in this brief explanation to what I think about BRICS is the alternative. BRICS is all the countries who are getting sick and tired, like you said, bro, of the old guard, and they want to change. And I think the fact of BRICS, I think they've recently just had like a 5-day, Brother Cal, come in if I'm wrong, but I know they've recently, I'll get the information, confirm it, but they've just had a big, conference. And out of that conference now, you've got like another 5 countries who have made applications to apply to BRICS. That's worrying. So I think before, where the West would be like, oh, they're just a bit of they're just a bunch of countries that are just got, that just don't like the West and they don't take them seriously. The 5 extra countries that have come on and have applied for application and looks like they're going to get it are countries who dominate in oil. So now you've got dominating countries who deal with oil and all the stuff that these people fight over and cause war for, all have an alliance. And the only alliance, they're not alliance on politics, they've made that clear. It's just in about of the market.
Money.
Yeah, money. And they want to be able to have a fair share. That is very interesting.
Ethiopia was the last country I remember that joined.
Yeah, I remember Ethiopia. I think there's a South American one, I can't remember. Saudi Arabia, AUE. So this is what I mean, big powerhouses. Wow. It's not like little countries. These are big countries now who saw BRICS as the big. If you Google it, they've had a big conference. You see how professional that got laid out and how serious they wanted it to be perceived. Now at the back of that, you've got these big 5, like these big hard hitters, and you know what? Let me apply. Let me join as well. I'm getting sick and tired of getting dictated by these same people. So what you got BRICS happening, you've got the revolution in Africa happening right now, and you've got the war in Ukraine happening. So
Hey, I'm laughing for a reason, trust me.
Yeah. Trust me. So it's a lot going on, and
boy.
There's a lot. So for me with BRICS, I'm interested. I'll say that I'm interested. I know there's a lot of African countries now who've applied for the next one. So yeah, especially if I see some actual sub-Saharan Africans like being able to get on, I'll be a bit more interested, because thus far it's just South Africa. So I'd like to see a bit more.
Senegal was applied in 2003.
And Ethiopia as well.
Oh, Ethiopia is recent. Yeah.
Ethiopia.
They're recent. Yeah. So that was one of the 5, I think, that got added. So that's like I said. Sorry, is that you, Brother Raven?
Yeah, Senegal. I'm looking. It says Senegal applied in 2003.
Yeah, they've applied. They're not in.
No, not yet. If at all.
Yeah, then it's like 2023. So hopefully they get a chance again, and I get it, I get it. Like, if you're going to do something, if you're going to fight Goliath, you better make sure that your teams are hard hitting. So why not get all of the oil heavy countries on board, right? Because once you've got them on board, now you need to talk to us, right? How else are you going to get your oil? So I get it. So you've got the hard hitters now. So I'd like to see, like Brother said, Senegal, some other countries that are more like me going into that group, to be honest with you. Then I would be real excited. But yeah. Like I said, it's interesting. Like, this is the best soap opera to be watching right now, I'm telling you, because they're just telling you, it's crazy what's happening right now.
I just have the biggest cheesy grin on my face. Yeah, no, there's so much things running through my mind right now.
Family, can you hear me? It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. You've done really good. I've made a note. So next week we'll be obviously continue with Africa's Rising, and obviously King Brother Kel and Sister Kush can jump in and do what they need to do. We can support and
definitely.
yeah.
I just want
to say, oh, sorry, bro. I just want to Brother EIE just put it in there. So it was Venezuela. So he said, and that's what I was thinking about.
Wow.
So yeah, exactly. So he says Venezuela is going to be in BRICS too. So the energy market will be in BRICS. This is what I mean. Now they've got everything. These are all the hard hitters. So look into BRICS, family, and just do a quick Google. You'll be surprised. Like the tip is turning, it's tipping. So, and like what the brother said, there's a change of guards coming. And Yeah, it's good to watch this. Yeah, energy and gas, absolutely. And that's what I said. The most entities that people are going to war from right now, or the crisis right now, it's our countries that have these resources, and they're finally waking up. They're chucking them out. They don't want them in their land. They're taking out their delegates, their armies. They're now saying that we don't even want to do in your currency. Burkina Faso wants their money out of the French banks.
Yes, they do.
There's a revolution happening. So,
Cool.
yeah, hopefully, especially all the family that's in the chat as well, please come through, support this. You know, I'm not going to say that I'm the be all or end all in. I just want to make this clear as well. I'm not the be all or end all in politics, but I think that this is all of our business. And we can't rely on the West to do it. We are the elders now, and we remember our elders sitting down, watching the news, keeping an eye on the continent, keeping an eye on the Caribbean. It's time for us to do that. There's a revolution happening right now, and it might be well within our business and for us to be keeping an eye on this. You know, there was one thing that I'm going to leave on that I want to mention. I just want to clarify if this is true, but I don't know if anyone else saw this, but I saw that in NatWest Bank, they said that they were stopping a certain amount coming out of the bank accounts. They're going to cap it. Did anyone see that going about?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Last week I saw this.
Okay, so let me say why this is in our interest. So do we remember what happened when Russia first kicked off with Ukraine?
Yeah.
Do you remember all of the, what they call it, oligarchs? All of the big Russia businesses that UK was sanctioning, even if they had nothing to do it, just because they were Russian. I think there was one big guy, wasn't he the one who owned Russia? Wasn't he the one who owned Chelsea? Because he didn't disown him as a friend. Wasn't it? Yeah, wasn't it him that because he didn't disown him for a friend, didn't he have to give up the club or one of his businesses and stuff like that? What I'm trying to say is, if you look around that time, you'll see that at the beginning of the war, the UK were literally sanctioning anyone who was Russia and not condemning them. I think at one point they were even talking about if Russian a tennis player could play at one point, and all of this, all because of what was happening in Ukraine. Do people remember that? So what is happening in Africa now, for those of us who want to go back to Africa, for those of us who want to help in Africa, for those of us who want to do investment in Africa, for those of us who just care about the Africa or the Caribbean, if there's current sanctions happening over these countries that we know that are doing the right thing, what's going to happen to people who want to invest in those countries? They're going to cut off your bank accounts. They're going to ask you what your business is doing with a country that we're currently in sanctions and wars with. You've got banks who have already got the right to tell you what to do with your money. This is like important. We really need to keep a close eye on this and even make sure that we test the Western media in how they write this narrative, because they're already saying it's coups and and all of this rubbish, but they're not telling you why they're upset. Because if they told you that, how could you fight against them? And if they allow that narrative to keep going on, you'll paint a new devil, not just the Russian devil, but now a new African devil. And now all sanctions are justified. No money going back and forth is justified. No aid, which they're already stopping aid is justified. So this is serious. Like I don't think that this is me being spooky or being a conspiracy theorist. They were doing this with Russian businesses. Anyone who is still working with Russia wouldn't condemn Putin. They condemn them. Google it. This is, look what's happening in Africa. So this is why this is of importance to us, because this is affecting us.
Political science needed.
Thank you, sisters.
Thank you so much, Dominic. Roman, I think he's just said the name there, if that's the person.
I'll put there. Big up, family. This is good info we're getting, and we have to thank the guests. Did a great job, all the guests, especially the ones who are not with us at the moment, all the contributors. We've gone over we've actually technically it's 2.5 hours now because we had an old live stream, but it's been good. We expect to see the panel next week here.
Yeah, please.
Let me know if you want me to do any other kind of topic or what I should name it, but we'll keep you updated. But until next week, Black Batman, any last things that the panel like to say, family?
Yeah, I just want to say, brother Diary of a Thai black man. DOA TBM is a great podcast. He's making, links with on the continent as well as America. So log on to that. But apart from that, brother, Black Betterment, and big up to the Sun people.
There you go.
Big up yourself, bro.
Black Better Man, and try to come true next week, the family. Like, get any information that you found out or heard, and let's all discuss this. It's good for us to elevate the chat a bit and and start talking about, international politics as well. But thank you so much as well, Brother Raven, for offering a space to do that, and always being a support for that as well.
Of course. Okay,
Raven, I just want to say sorry for swearing, but more importantly, bless the family for real. It's been a while since I've been on here, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'll make sure I turn up to class on time.
There you go.
Next time. Yeah, God bless all of you, and have a nice weekend.
Easy, family. Bye, man.